If you look at the left-hand side of the chart, for the first half of it, it's, the stock chart is pretty flat, up and down, little ups and downs. But since the end of July, when this crisis, the end of July 2008, when the crisis really started, you see that the Iraqi stock exchange spiked while we were crashing in the West.
Right.
And then their second spike started in the end of September, beginning of October, as you see here, when the market again spiked there as we were crashing in the West.
On those days is when Donald Rumsfeld was taking his antidepressant medicine. And he's on the Iraqi stock market. Buy, buy, buy.
Well, I think it could be an indicator that, in fact, the U.S. will be downgraded and that they will have problems financing their debt. And we know that financing their debt is very integral to financing their military campaigns around the world. So perhaps this is a contrarian sort of indicator that this is the AAA being lost.
Okay, so Stacey Herbert in London, you're identifying the Iraqi stock market as a leading indicator in terms of predicting which way the dollar might go vis-a-vis the amount of money that's now flowing into some of these markets that are more sensitive to the global economy that is outside of the dominance of the U.S. dollar. So we'll have to watch that chart going forward. I think it's an excellent one to keep tabs on, and hopefully you'll be back next week to let us know how that's progressing on the Iraqi stock market. I have a feeling that based on your analysis, we might see some continued strength on that exchange. Certainly the markets in the U.S., although they're experiencing something of what's called by traders a dead cat bounce. I don't have a dead cat. How about this? Where's my waterboarded Rumsfeld? No, I mean Geithner. That's it. My waterboarded Geithner. Tell us where the dead cat is. Tell us. Although I don't have a dead cat here in the studio, the trend, nevertheless, is down for those markets. Well, Stacey Herbert, I want to thank you for being on this week's edition of On the Edge, and we're going to be talking, I think, in just a moment with the man, the economist who saw it all coming, Michael Hudson. Welcome to On the Edge.
Thank you very much.
Michael Hudson, will there be a sovereign debt crisis?
Well, there really can't be any such thing as a sovereign debt crisis because any sovereign can print its own money. So there can be a debt crisis for companies that don't have the money to pay, but any government can always print its own money. There may be a balance of payments crisis, and there may be an exchange rate crisis, and the dollar may go down or sterling may go down, but the governments themselves will always be able to print enough dollars or sterling or any other currency to pay.
Okay, so the S&P, the ratings agency, downgraded the outlook for the United Kingdom, yet the markets responded with a sell-off in the dollar. So how does that figure?
That means that they think that the UK's exchange rate is going to go down. And they really should have said, what we're making is an exchange rate forecast, and we think that sterling is going to go down against the U.S. dollar. But now people realize that the dollar itself is in trouble and the euro itself is in trouble. So the balance of payments of every major currency is in trouble. Eastern Europe can't pay its debts, so you have Latvia and Hungary in the position of Iceland is not having the money to pay. The Americans are cutting taxes, and the trade deficit's growing, and the military's deficit's growing. And sterling looks like it's dismantling the whole London city. So every country has bad news, but if they all go down together, how do you say which one's going to go down the most?
All righty, so it's purely semantic, is what you're saying. If the U.S. loses its AAA-rated debt rating on its sovereign debt, but so the topography of global economy and the currencies going forward, any winners from the losers, or is everyone just a net loser going forward?
Nobody will be a net loser. In other words, the dollar is going to go up and down against sterling, and sterling will go up and down against the euro. And everybody's going to, the economy of all these three groups is going to go down, but you don't know which is going to go down the most. It's going to seesaw back. The U.S. would only have a sovereign debt crisis if it owed money in euros or sterling. And Britain could have a sovereign debt crisis if it owed its money in dollars or euros. But as long as it owes in its own currency, there's no such thing as a sovereign debt crisis.
Sure, but now let's talk about China for a second. They're stuck in what's called a dollar trap, and they have mentioned that in fact, that they'd like to see some debt priced in their local currency. What's been the developments there?
They want to get the same free ride that America's got. They figure that if they can issue their own currency, they'll export paper and they'll get other countries' resources. They want to do just what America did. They want to print their own currency and use it to get the exports and raw materials and companies of other countries, just like America did. So they want to have their own currency as held by foreign central banks, because printing paper for something else gives you a free ride.
All right, so that's a tectonic shift in the role of the world reserve currency, as it were. And America's empire is built on that world reserve currency status. So China seems to be hoping to get itself into that position. Do you think China can take over as having the world reserve currency?
Nobody's going to take over. What they wanted to do is join the United States. They want the same free ride America's got. Nobody's going to take over. We're going to have a multipolar world instead of a unipolar world, and that's probably a good thing.